Good evening. Come one, come all. Yeah. I realize, actually the timing, I don't know, I'm assuming that those of you tuning in, part of you are from the States, so if somebody can tell me, because I have no idea, obviously, at this point in time, I'm so far removed from all that, but is it a 3-day weekend? I know the 4th is on Saturday. Is Friday a day off for most people? If so, this is not exactly the introduction to the long weekend, but it can kind of function as such. Yeah, we've got, as soon as I get my laptop all set up here, we just started the 5th season of Better Call Saul, so we were kind of watching that for a little bit before the stream. So anyway, let me go ahead. Yes, it's a 3-day weekend. Excellent. Well, hopefully it's not too hot. Although I have been following the weather and I saw that it's pretty miserable, at least in the Midwest. I'm assuming it's pretty miserable everywhere. But yeah, kind of an interesting mix this week. I think Spotify is going to work. I'm just going to throw that out there right there. Not here at the bank. Well, yes, banks, there's money to be made, obviously. So I don't know. I'm kind of used to working through holidays at this point in time. I don't really have a fixed graphic or a schedule, I guess is what we would say in English. So, but yeah, we've got, what do we got here? We've got a little bit of indie. We've got some post. We've got, I think we have everything this evening except for rap and hip hop, which I think for most people is okay. And I think, honestly, I probably could have squeezed in a rap and hip hop album. There's one that I've got waiting in the wings, but as it is, yeah. I will say, however, that we are going to have a bit more metal than we've had recently. There's 3 out of the 11. So, anyway, the order today, we're kind of, for the most part, we're just going to start with the EPs, then we're going to go to the mini albums, then we're going to go to the full lengths. I don't really have a good reason for that, just mainly because the full lengths are pretty solid on their own. The minis are slightly better, and the EPs are, they're good, they're EPs, but they're also EPs. So, enough of that. As always, let me know if the audio levels are okay. I should have, I want to make sure it's like not super loud. All right, we'll try that. Let me know how the audio levels are, and I suppose I should switch over. All right, so we are starting off here with the EP 691 from MARLA, which I'm assuming, I can only assume is a reference to Fight Club. That's literally the only connection with the name MARLA that can possibly exist in my mind. Just short, sweet, right to the point, with the point of this release being that the garage rock punk pop sound that the Cup Size group kicked off has very seriously altered the trajectory of like young music here in Russia. I've heard a lot of Cup Size style releases over the last few months. Most of them are just these sort of faded echo type knockoffs where you understand what the influence is, but it's just like not really good. This one here, it's got something to it. It's got some teeth. Feels a little bit like the sort of raw scene girl type of music from back in the early 2000s. So even the look, we got the plaid skirt, the sort of schoolgirl outfit. We just need like a streak in the hair and the striped sleeves to go on top of it. But there's something here. This is fun. It's infectious. It's kind of like musical candy, but oh no, maybe Spotify isn't going to work. Let's see how long it takes for them to turn on. I actually almost had everything pulled up on Yandex. We might have to end up doing that. Yeah. If the delay happens with each subsequent album, I will switch over to Yandex. Audio levels okay? Everything sound good? Yeah, that is really weird that they don't change it if it's Saturday, but it's on Sunday. I mean, this isn't exactly Avril Lavigne. Again, this is like, kind of feels a little bit like the cup-sized version of it, if you will. Not to mean that in any sort of demeaning way, but there's definitely that kind of skater girl energy, or scene girl, or whatever you want to. But like, that's fine. We need the yin to the yang of cup size, the almost toxic masculinity, and then now we get the opposite side of the coin. Really not too much more. I mean, there's the first track, it literally is intro, so there's really just 3 tracks there. You heard 2 of them. Pretty straightforward. This is the first EP. There are a few singles before this one, but that is the EP, 691, by MARLA. Moving on, we have the EP Vtorая остановка, or Second Stop, Second Station, by the group Однёрка, which is, I had to look this up, it's the name of the first, I have no idea, I don't, it's regional slang from the Ural region, evidently. Название первого маршрута общественного транспорта. So the first public transit line in a city, I guess, is Однёрка, according to the Russian Wiktionary, which actually exists. Anyway, long story short, musically speaking, this is from Ijevsk, and Ijevsk is in the Ural region, so that checks out. And I think this is, I don't know if it's the first time, but it's one of those cities. It's actually where AK-47s are produced. It was a closed city for basically all of the existence of the Soviet Union, even to Soviet citizens. Like, if you were from Moscow, you couldn't just get up and go to Ijevsk. So, fun fact. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of out there. If you actually look at it on the map, none of the major roads go through it. It's kind of a dead end in its own way. But regardless, I think this is like maybe the second group out of there. Musically, this is very chill, indie rock. It's got a lot of spacious guitars, backing electronics, kind of go with that melancholic and atmosphere of yearning. It's got this sort of shut-in, introverted youth thing going on there. Let me just play the damn thing. jump ahead just a little bit. Largely instrumental opener, but that's not the entire way through, so. And we get something a little bit more in line with what you would consider indie rock, right? As you can see, this is pretty much their first release. So yeah, nice, real simple, classic indie rock sound, I guess. I mean, there's so many indie rock sounds, but if you listen to indie, you kind of recognize all of them. Very nice. It does have kind of a, the album art is fairly fitting to this sort of like, I don't know, bonfire type music, if you will. Anyway, that is the EP Вторая остановка. The group is Однёрка. And you learned a little bit from Ижевск, which you just also heard me talk a little bit about as well. Moving on, we have the longest album title that I have ever featured here for an EP for any release. This is from the artist Велосипед до Tokyo, a bicycle to Tokyo. And the EP here is Завтра наступит, и оно будет биться в унисон с моим сердцем, пока я буду бежать изо всех сил через сегодняшний день. Which is, tomorrow will come and it will beat in unison with my heart while I run with all my strength through today, or through the current day. Very poetic. Anyway, good release. Really two massive tracks. We got two tracks. They are 18 and a half minutes long. It's classic post-rock. Got the tremolo picking, the right, the really methodical, slow melodies at the core. But then it builds into, on the first track, it builds up slowly into these large sort of black gaze moments, or on the second track, into these large sort of post-metal, a la Russian Circles type moments. And then it kind of goes back down, right? The tide goes back out, and then it comes back in again. It's the classic loud, quiet post-rock thing. But it works. It's a classic. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, honestly, this is a group who released an album last year in, I believe, October or November. We can check. or February. I just remember the album artwork from last year. Also has a very long album title here too, which feels very Midwestern Midwest emo, but it's post-rock. Anyway, I missed it last year. I didn't get around to it for whatever reason, probably because I was just getting into the loop of this and hadn't gotten everything down to as much of an art as this can get down to. As it is, after this kind of short EP, it's 2 tracks, 18 minutes, so I don't know, is that short? Anyway, definitely on my radar now for the post-rock scene. I guess you could maybe call it, there's like a little bit of black gaze in here too, in the guitar distortion. And the kind of blast beats, I guess. So, right, starts quiet, gets fast and loud, kind of comes back down. I guess the tempo here is still relatively upbeat, or really a little bit faster than it was at the start, but we're in the quiet section once again. Also, the song titles are just as long, right? Время подобно стае птиц унесет за собой всю людскую боль. Time, like a flock of birds, will carry away with it all of human pain, or all of... and then, пусть в ваших сердцах всегда будет место для света. Let there always be room in your hearts for light. I don't know. Like, whatever, that's cool, it works, you know? It's post-rock. They can, I mean, like, post-rock is kind of built on super long and absurd things, like 9-minute songs, so why not have album title, or album and track titles like that as well. Anyway, yes, I mean, it's, you get the idea. It kind of, it ebbs and flows, but both tracks very well done. It is almost 20 minutes worth of music, but it doesn't really feel like it. It's just one of those albums that you can put on and you can listen to. It's kind of background music, but at the same time, there's enough going on that you'll find yourself, I don't know, like, I always end up tapping my feet or drumming along on something, but regardless, it does sort of pull you in, even if you're not planning on getting pulled along with it. So that is the artist or the group. I think it's a solo project, but regardless, it's Велосипед до Tokyo, Bicycle to Tokyo, and the EP, once again, Завтра наступит, и оно будет биться в унисон с моим сердцем, пока я буду бежать изо всех сил через сегодняшний день. Something like that. Anyway, moving on to something title-wise much, much shorter, much easier. This is Moré and Rэльсы, and this is actually a group that has its roots back like 10, 20 years ago, if we go back and we kind of like, you know, 2009, right? I don't know if that's the first one, but regardless, this is out of St. Petersburg. They were part of the sort of like indie party rock scene back in the day. Now they're all grown up. Most of the musicians here are over 40. So the lyrics are, you know, they've aged appropriately. This is not a Drake situation. And but they haven't grown up entirely, which the title of the album will tell you that 100%. It is Les.Озеро.Побухать. Forest, lake, boozing, I guess is the easiest way to translate it. It's got the overall energy that you would expect of it. It sounds like an artifact in the best way possible of the iPod era. Think like Block Party, but also Presidents of the United States of America, which I know was a little bit before the iPod era, but I'm kind of lumping that in. There is a little bit of some pop punk and post-punk influence here as well. But yeah, on the whole, a good release. I wish some of the tracks were a little bit longer, right? You know, like a minute 19 feels a little bit short, not, 13 songs, 30-minute songs, but I'm assuming these guys have full-time jobs, so that's fair. Kind of like a summertime millennial house party, I guess. Think of it like that. It kind of has the look, the group has the look of summertime millennial Russian house party, so The one thing I'll always love about music from St. Petersburg is that they just like always will sing about drinking. That's the go-to topic when it comes to writing a song. I mean, does this not sound like that sort of electro indie dance music from back in the day? I mean, it is, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to remember which one had like the presidents of the United States. And they're so short too. I just played the whole thing without even thinking about it. That's fantastic. I think this one was the one that reminded me a little bit of presidents. Yeah. So I think the big thing is that there were a lot of tracks, like that last one, Les.Ozero.Pobухать, the title track, which I really liked. Like, they had good energy, but you know, a minute and a half, what are you gonna do with that? So I feel like there were a few of these tracks they could have cast out and instead focused on expanding some of the other ones that are a little bit stronger. But again, that's just my opinion. A little bit of that pop punk there too, you can hear. Here's the post-punk. The song is called Last Night, so you could maybe even like imagine the Strokes just a little bit. Just a little bit. Get the idea. It's kind of a throwback indie rock, but again, it's not throwback. These guys have been doing it for the better part of 2 decades now. Well, yeah, 2 decades basically. So it's just indie rock. They're still doing it. That is the album Les.Ozero.Побухать by the group Moré y Rэльсы. I don't know if that's supposed. It's like, is it Moré Eels? Moré y Rélьсы? Anyway. Moving on. The last EP here, that was a full-length album. I do realize I sort of put it there towards the front. I do like it. But I just think that there are more solid releases here on out. So no offense to them. But anyway, this is the EP 4th attempt, Deathgze. We are into metal here, so just FYI. This is Humaniac, technical death metal. Surprise, surprise. You might be able to tell from the album artwork, which feels a little AI generated, but okay, whatever. It's prog tech death. It's fast. It's just kind of over the top as you would expect for the genre. But really what makes this stand out, the oddball instruments that are in here. There's a track, I think there's 2 tracks with accordion. There's a track with a marimba. The harp is here. There are piano lines on this that feels like the instrument is having a nervous breakdown. There's just a lot of electronics mixed into it. It is sonically a much broader palette than you typically get from technical death metal. It's also, if you might have been able to tell from some of the album artwork, it's leaning into Lovecraftian mythos, and the group itself has described it as a bad trip from the land of Lovecraft. So I believe this is the marimba track, so we'll just start with that. But again, progressive, technical death metal. Just brace yourselves. If it's going to play. Yeah, there's... I mean, it does feel like it's all about like getting sucked into a vortex of water and like winding up at the depths of the ocean, like Cthulhu and like the various mysterious cults and eldritch horrors. And somehow the marimba kind of works in this. There's that piano. And those weird electronics, the synths, I guess, here. There's still plenty of that classical progressive tech death, so. Progressive technical death metal. So we go from metal to death metal, that's already a subgenre, to technical death metal, we're subgenre. And now we're progressive technical, so we're subgenre right now. We don't get many of these releases. We don't get many technical death metal releases either, so pleasantly surprised. Needless to say, this is not easy music to pull off. Like, I know it's kind of a lot going on, but the time signature changes and all that stuff, but it's very well executed. Like, these guys, they got chops, you know, they know what they're doing. They play their instruments very, very well. And honestly, the lyrics are in English. If you go check out their Bandcamp page, you can find all the lyrics there. And it tells a fairly coherent story, which is also always a nice bonus. Okay, I'll cut it there. I know progressive technical death metal is not everybody's thing. It's, yeah, you know, it's mostly not people's things, but if you do like that, or if you like things a little bit heavier and you're looking to get a little bit wild, I would check this out. It's definitely probably the techiest thing I have heard thus far this year. And I don't know if it's just like because it's such a high bar of entry that with like tech death, there aren't that many bad bands. But there are a lot of generic bands. And again, just the use of, I didn't highlight the accordion, but you heard the marimba, right? Like, just the inclusion of instruments that are normally very far out of the tech death wheelhouse. That right there makes this kind of a fun and unique listen in the genre as a whole, which in the sub genre, which can be kind of repetitive in its own way. But That is the EP Fourth Attempt, Deathgze. I have no idea what that title is referring to, but sure, whatever. And the group is Humaniac. All right. Moving on, though, we are switching gears. This is the one sort of electronic release. This is Ямобур, which is hole driller, hole digger. I don't know if that is slang for something else, but just take it as it is. The album here, the mini album here, is Последний клубняк, or like the last clubber, also out of St. Petersburg. Just keep that in mind. Like St. Petersburg was the music scene in a lot of ways back in the 1990s and the early 2000s, but 100% on like the electronic and club scene. It kind of still is to some degree, but that's another discussion, all things considered. What I will say is it's in 2026 good to see that people from St. Petersburg have not forgotten that, even people who were really too young to have been there the first time around. The music here is often kind of a meme. There's plenty of audio references to internet viral videos and audio clips. But the heart of this album is electronic or electronic pop music that sounds like that golden era of the 90s, early 2000s. I actually listened to Yamabur's previous release, which was kind of just indie. So this is like a huge tonal shift, but that's okay. He pulls it off. I don't know if he's going to milk this for a while, but I do think that there is very much a niche for this, a niche demand. But yeah, the lyrics are also focused on kind of the stereotypical idea of that St. Petersburg club scene from the late 90s, early 2000s. Drinking, right? Coming back around to that, just if it's Petersburg music, drinking is the go-to lyrical choice. But like also the clothes that people were wearing, references to pop culture from the time, and just in general that whole scene, what people were doing and how it was back there. Some of it has carried over to modern times, to be sure. But anyway, all of that, there's also like a lot of the sort of hyper pop sensibilities here, just in terms of how the music is put together, but just listen. Like so many familiar electronic music or electronic pop sounds throughout this album. They're just like, I've heard that somewhere before. And that's, I don't know. It pulls a lot of like, or it tickles a lot of mental memories that you can't quite put your finger on in the same way that Girl Talk did with its with his mashups back in the day.
You're fired. Why? I don't pay you to be a sensitive artiste. I pay you to be my beast.
It's with the J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man.
Сидя на созвоне, сардельку вкусно жую. Залипаю на авика, жира давно закрыто. Повезло быть обладателем 90 IQ. Теперь я просто обезьянка, известного ныне банка. Платят сколько не жалко, ведь деньги у них есть. Хотя им, конечно, жалко, поэтому платят среднее. Но я и работаю среднее, и часто хуяю алка.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the loon call, for example. I think it's a loon. Also, I don't know. if this is a new thing, but they actually started adding lyrics, so. I realize that for most of you this means nothing, but it is really nice to have that instead of having to like attempt to hunt it down on Contacti or something, which is basically impossible. So you get the idea. It's kind of a meme album, but I think it's also just referential to that era. It's hard to tell exactly. A lot of the like press releases or the stuff online connected to this album also was done not with this, but as if it was like a teen magazine with like other artists around him, you know, like those old music magazines that people used to buy. So I think there is a referential nature to all of this, but anyway. Not really. This is definitely electronic music, electro pop. I don't really know exactly where to qualify this, but I do think it is earnest in its love for the source material. So that is the artist Ямобур with the album Последний клубняк. Yeah, the sound effects are all over the place too. So anyway, moving on. We are now into, I guess indie territory. It's not like indie. This is the group Pесочница, имени меня, or the sandbox dedicated to me. And the album is mDBM. I don't actually know what that means. If somebody can decode that for me, it'd be much appreciated. This is avant pop music or art rock. It's kind of just put those two together. The album is focused on a family which lives in one of those old Soviet apartments, and there's been a lot of music that focuses on the very warm and nostalgic aspects of those old Soviet apartments, connected to like old family memories and the warmth and the coziness of them. This one is focused to the other side of that, because that was not obviously the case. That was not always the case, obviously. Here it's focused on a family which lives in one of those rundown, beat up old Soviet apartments. And the family is, as a result of that, or just that's just the environment they have to live in. Regardless, it's a very abusive, destructive family, and it focuses on the traumas that they have and that they inflict on one another. Sounds very dark and brooding, but it's actually very theatrical, a wide variety of instruments. When I was listening to this, I was reminded the two groups I could put my fingers on would be Man and Gogol Bordello. The energy and the instruments of Man with that sort of rhythm, Eastern European vibe of Gogol Bordello. But where do I want to start here? I think I'm going to start here, actually. I don't know if they have the pictures. No, they don't.
Большого кулака сводил ее с ума иногда. Он держал букет цветов задушевной ожоги. Это для нее любовь привычной ей была. Одиноко в детстве был цветок. Дальше лишь страшнее лепесток. Тебе для счастья хватит всего-то навсего. Цветков на один больше, чем душевных синяков.
I think you can get what I meant, something kind of theatrical about all of this. In a good way, though, not in a like a, oh, they're just like being over the top here. It's, I mean, it is supposed to be over the top, but that's okay. Most music is. Most good music is, right? Over the top in one form or another. I feel like there's another, like, indie rock opera that I've heard that reminds me of this, but I just can't put my finger on it. That also had a lot of piano and was focused on like telling this story. It might be connected to Flagmanska Szkola, which is a group that I talked about. It was an album that I missed from 2025. I actually talked about them in January. They also had an album that was it was focused on a group of orphans that run away from the orphanage and go to Moscow, like the land of milk and honey, but it had the same kind of energy, but this is a little bit different. I feel like there's another album, I just can't quite identify it. Here's that again. Like, this is really where the Man Gogol Bordello sounds, I think, both overlap pretty heavily. Granted, not as energetic as Gogol, but I mean, wait, why is it not stopping? Okay, I guess we're just gonna... Alright, I think this might be the moment where Spotify stops working. I'm... I seriously cannot stop the music. I cannot stop. I just closed all of the Spotify tabs. It will not stop. You guys, I have no idea what to do. I'm literally... Well, this is interesting. You guys, I have no idea. Wait, there might be... I had a Spotify tab open in my other Chrome. Anyway, all right, yeah, we'll go over to Yandex here, so... Well, that was fun. Anyway, yeah, if you're looking for something evidently that causes Spotify to lose its goddamn mind, but also that's, again, a kind of art pop, avant pop, art rock, avant rock, art pop, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Still a good release, very theatrical, but kind of a good and interesting one. That is the mini album mDBM by the group Pесочница, имени, меня. All right, I need to... Do I have the screen up here? I do have the screen up here. So let me just go ahead. You guys are going to see the names of the groups in advance, but okay, whatever, that's fine. We'll just... This also means, though, that I need to get Spotify open down here so I can actually see which tracks. I remember here. Up next, we have we're back to metal. Just giving everyone's a head up. This is the mini album REFLEX from the group BEASTDROP. Beatdown hardcore. To kind of keep things simple, just going to go with that sort of sub genre. Implements a lot of the metallic hardcore sound of the late 2000s, 2010 period. You got the weird sound effects. You do have some of the pig squeals on the closer. There's even a little bit of the new metal thrown in there. It's hardcore. There's just really no doubt about that. The metalcore, you can hear it from time to time if you keep your ears open. You can hear some deathcore in there too. It's a mix of stuff, but it's solid all the way through. I'm not like a huge... well, I don't want to say like I'm not a huge hardcore fan. I mean, I always loved Hatebreed and stuff like that, but I just feel like it gets kind of repetitive. This is not that. All right, let's go with this one to kind of give the that kind of you know, like, I forgot, it didn't drop there, but we do have the yeah, there it is. We got kind of the deathcore elements. We got those electronics and the weird record scratches like you would hear from nu metal back in the day. So you got like this sort of more classic, again, a deathcore beatdown hardcore sound, but there are also a lot of tracks that don't really, I mean, like they definitely are still very much like hardcore, but are a little bit different. I don't know. Just give this one a second. I mean, you know what? I'm just gonna jump ahead. A little bit more metalcore here, right? Also, this feels like the first song I've heard in a while that feels kind of pointed towards the general war situation, which I don't know. Like obviously in the States after the war with Iraq started, like the metal community just sort of like jumped on board with like the fuck war type motif, but obviously here in Russia that didn't happen. I'm assuming that at some point in the future that will become more common, but yeah, generally speaking, the metal community tends to be very anti-war and like against the sort of whole military-industrial complex. So it's kind of cool to hear a little bit of that coming through here. Just like got a really good chorus, good atmosphere, hardcore, metalcore at the same time. It kind of like it's got that nice balance. Anyway, yeah, it's a nice hardcore release. It's a really good one. It's quite short, but on the whole, it's solid all the way through. it's got enough of it that's kind of that classic, again, beatdown hardcore, deathcore type stuff. But then there's enough of the metallic end of it, the sort of metalcore, metallic hardcore aspect of it. So it is varied throughout. With this release in particular, too, it's also worth mentioning that aside from the 6th track, all of these tracks over like the course of the last year had been released individually, and then the group just decided to actually lump them all together into a release, which is good. Kind of makes the actual release probably a little bit less exciting for people, but anyway, this next one here, I actually have to go to Bandcamp. No. Oh, god damn it. Well. Oh, god damn it. Okay. I'm not on a VPN right now. I'm using the DPI circumvention stuff. So, fuck me and fuck Contact, yeah. But I guess this is where we're at. Avoid this social network like the plague. It is all advertising to sign military contracts and pornography and just like the fucking cringiest shit on the face of the planet. But I do use it quite a bit to find music. So, this actual garbage website, stay away from it as much as possible. The Spotify link will work for everyone else, and if you don't have Spotify, you can still find the Bandcamp. I just like can't access either of them right now. This is Ovod, and the album here is Vdvoem. Oh, okay. I still have to get it open on Spotify down here so I can actually check which tracks I want to highlight. I can't remember, but anyway, yeah, this is a St. Petersburg. We have a lot of St. Petersburg today. Musician that works with analog modular synths, specifically the Moog unit of the 5U format or the Euro track, if that means anything to anybody. That's just like the information they threw out there. But they took this analog modular synth music, and the artists who he had worked, or he had done some live shows with a drummer a few times, they decided to team up and like come together in the studio. And so what we get is these sort of abstract electronic rhythms paired with this almost near improv drive of live percussion. It reminded me a lot of the group, and I don't know if it will be on Contact yet. It's or on YouTube. Oh my god, it's fucking Jesus H. Yeah, I hate this website so much. It's just like it's worse than Facebook. If you can imagine that, it's worse than Facebook. It's great for piracy, but I mean, so many other websites for that. Is this a thing? Is this actually? Anyway, I fucking hate this website. There's a group, Tussle, and you can find them very easily on Spotify. This project, this release, Vdvoem, reminded me a lot of Tussle, just without the sort of bass and the guitars for the most part. Which I was also really pleased with this release because it brought to mind Tussle again, which is one of those groups that I remember seeing at the Vaudeville Muse in Des Moines. I actually think I have little buttons of theirs from that concert. So it was nice to have that musical memory brought to surface as well. There's something danceable across this, but it's just that weird sort of experimental forest rave type energy. Going to jump ahead. Can you hear it now? Can't. I don't know if that makes it better at all. But there are some tracks that are just like more open and abstract as well too. It's not all that kind of like weird, kind of dancey electronic stuff. So that's kind of the spectrum there. You've got kind of like the first track, and then you have the fourth track type of thing, where one of them is definitely a more energetic and more driving, with the drums and everything being much more active and pushing things forward. And then you have the fourth track where it is more of just the synth playing around and having its turn. For sure, I think the first track and the last track are the strong ones, but they're all good in their own regard. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of music you have to like pay attention to, because if you don't, it just gets completely lost. You might as well just not listen to it. It's again, it's that type of electronic music I like, where it's like, there's definitely a rhythm here. There's no way in hell you'd ever be able to hum this or whistle it, but like, it's there, but it's so chaotic too. It's like a constellation. There aren't really any lines in the sky, but when you look at all of them, you can kind of start to connect things into some sort of map. Same with this music right here. There's not actually a really coherent melody or rhythm, but we can still follow it somehow. We're just drawing that line right now through the sky. And that's like kind of what makes this fun. If I'm talking louder, it's because it's louder in my ears right now, so. I mean, there definitely are parts that are more rhythmic and melodic, to be sure. I'm not pretending like it's all abstract and experimental. Anyway, very interesting release. Different for sure, but definitely worth a listen. That is the album Vdvoem, which is like together, or just the two. Vdvoem, like I don't know how Vdvoem is like two people together. Vdvoem, so a duo, if you will, and the group is Ovod. But yeah, I am gonna turn this down just a little bit, so because the next one is it's a metal release. It's the last metal release. Just, hold your horses. This is the group CYCLOPIC with the album Flesh of Chaos. It's a project born out of 3 countries, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Germany, with Germany just being the session drummer. So why one of the artists is in Kazakhstan in 2026, I mean, I have my guesses, but it's probably not a stretch of the imagination to assume it has something to do with the war. This is the debut. It's a debut, and it is old school death metal. It's got a little bit of that thrash metal vibe in there as well, too. Lyrics are in English, sometimes a little incorrect. I noticed in the lyrics, instead of saying broad, they said bringed. But, you know, that's fine. Like, these guys are just doing it on their own, so bless them for that, you know. I make a shit ton of mistakes when I speak Russian, too, so I get it. But the thing that's kind of cool about this, the lyrics are all based on, I had no clue of this guy before, Michael Moorcock. Michael Moorcock, his multiverse. Michael Moorcock is just like basically, look him up on Wikipedia. It's hard. It's just like science fiction, but also fantasy. It's really just fantasy, but there's some science fiction elements in the sense of it's a multiverse. It just kind of feels like every single genre thrown together. It's got like action, adventure, the grand savior type things, and the balance of the universes and all of that stuff. It's the type of wiki stuff that you can get like sucked into very quickly because you're like, what the hell are they even talking about? So you start reading about more of these characters, and I don't know, I downloaded a few of the books, so maybe I'll read some Michael Moorcock as a result of this. Yeah, in short, it's the perfect thing to write metal about because it's high fantasy. And I also find it absolutely hilarious that Yandex Music blurred out this section. You can't see anything. The figure here has her arm in front of her breasts, and there's literally no shot of the crotch whatsoever. So traditional values for the win. Fucking insanity in this country. It is the neo-puritanical, neoconservative, born-again movement on fucking amphetamines. But anyway, yeah, let's listen to some of the music. Oh, shit. That's incredibly loud. I don't know if that was just loud in my headphones or if it was loud for everybody. If it was loud for everybody, I apologize. My ears just got completely blasted. It's not loud again. Okay. I mean, I'm turning it up. I know you. Do they have the lyrics here? I don't. I hate. No, they don't. Okay. Again, it's like old school death metal. Which I mean, it's done really well. And the lyrics are like, I spent so much time on the Michael Moorcock Wikipedia, or like there's an actual whole wiki site dedicated to Michael Moorcock's multiverse. I was reading about all these characters like the Queen of Swords and all of these, I don't know, it's a head trip, but it's kind of cool. Jump ahead. old school death metal. You know, what I find funny is I remember the first concert I ever went to with my cousin was Soulfly. It was Pantera, Soulfly, Morbid Angel, and Nothing Face. And I didn't know Nothing Face, and that's one of those groups that kind of got forgotten from that era, which I still think they had 2 really solid albums. But everybody knows Soulfly and Pantera. But Morbid Angel, I remember when Morbid Angel came on, I was just like, what? Morbid Angel is just death metal. And I remember at the time just being like, oh my god, this I can't even listen to this. And now it's just like, yeah, it's definitely like I gotta be in a mood for it, but anyway, these guys do a really good job of it. I know if you're not like a death metal person, then this sounds like noise and chaos, but it's a very well executed classical death metal sound. It's got like it's got fantastic album artwork too. Let's just be real. It looks exactly like you would hope a metal album artwork would look like. Weird worlds, like half-naked women, fonts that are illegible to anyone. Yeah, that's... Anyway, yeah. We don't get a lot of the sort of classic death metal. Oftentimes, if it is, it sucks horribly. I've listened to so much bad death metal. So to hear this was just like... It's kind of like black metal, where it's not really my favorite. I mean, I like mellow death, I like blackened death, but just like classic death metal is it's quaint, I guess, for me. But when it's done appropriately, it's just like, oh yeah, that's why people like the genre. So anyway, that's the album Flesh of Chaos by the group CYCLOPIC. Well, we got one left. One left. And that is the album Если, which is like what if. And the group is Rябь. Now, the group described their sound as shoegaze. They say that people describe it as post-grunge. I think that both of those labels are fine. I would maybe even throw in Deftones core. The group says that their inspiration musically are the groups Warpaint and Smashing Pumpkins, which you can also hear very much so in the music. Yeah, it's kind of all of those things. Shoegaze, post-grunge, Deftones core, Smashing Pumpkins, Warpaint, like... That you just fucking triangulate off that or whatever, quadrilaterate off of that. There's a lot of shoegaze / shoegaze adjacent music that's been coming out in the last year or so here in Russia. And what I will say is I listened to this album actually for last week. This is one of the albums I didn't get around to talking about last week. And so about a week and a half ago when I first heard this album, within the first two tracks, I was just like, yes, there's something here. And that right there is already, like, you know, just having listened to so much shoegaze and adjacent style music in the last period of time, it really takes something to stand out. And I don't know if it's the Smashing Pumpkins influence or the Deftones influence, but I think a big part of the sound here is the heavier and darker sound. I think that makes it stand out quite a bit. One last thing before I actually play the music, and that has to do with the group's name, Rябь. Rябь is a word in Russian which describes a water surface with ripples over the top of it, right? It's a rippled surface of water, right? You know what it, you know, the or not even rippled. It doesn't have to be rippled. It can just be like an unstable water surface where the overall image is understandable, but the details are all lost, right? And I think that's a very appropriate name for the group that's making music like this. Yeah, let's just get into it. Title track. This is the final album of the week. This is the top pick. I think pretty much every single track on this album is great. Again, it's this sort of darker shoegaze, post-grunge, grunge gaze, Deftones core, whatever fucking ridiculous term you want to call it. But it's good. It's done very, very well. Gonna hit 2 more tracks. I cannot remember which track. There's one track on this album too that when you hear it, it is Smashing Pumpkins. You hear it immediately. It's not this one. I just like this track. Just like the image in the unstill water, it's like the lyrics, even if you know Russian, are very difficult to make out. Like it's one of those things where I had to bust out the lyric sheet. This is actually the track too, the closer of all, that reminded me most of Deftones. There's at least one other track too. I think the 3rd one or the 4th one that has that same sort of Deftones energy, but that drop when it comes in, it's got such Deftones energy. And I'm just gonna say it now. I only saw like I probably have about 50 music channels across Contact and Telegram that I check in on once a week typically, right? Just to see like what's going on with new releases. I think I saw 2 of them talk about this release, which I find, I don't know if it's just like it was released with little fanfare, no fanfare, or if it is just that the saturation level of this type of music is at such a point here that it just largely got ignored. But regardless, I think that's unfortunate, because I do think that this is a release that is extremely good. It's a really good album. I cannot stress enough when, even on Spotify, the one song I have that is not liked is Echo right here. And that's just because I'm not a huge fan of the rhythm in the verse section, but the chorus on Echo is also just like really, really strong. So, solid album from start to finish. Very few people are talking about this, but I do think it deserves a lot more ears on it. So, yeah. This is the album I'm ending with. This is the album Если from the group Rябь. And we'll just cut it off there, because I'm not going to bother coming up with a fun transition. All right. So yeah, that's that. We are done. As I said in the video description, technically it's July right now, so it's kind of like we're into the third quarter already, but also technically we didn't start the first quarter for a while. So I'm gonna spend, like, I'll definitely be paying attention to July music. I think, I don't know for sure. June was a very, very dry month, so I'm assuming that July will also be the same. So I feel like I can kind of keep half of my attention focused on July, in the sense of when the new releases come out, I'll just listen to all the garbage and get it out of my playlist, and then focus on I have a list of, I think, 7 releases from May/June that I need to sit down and write for. So I'm going to carry the second quarter over a little bit into July, just because, like, we know damn well that the fourth quarter is going to go over into January just a little bit. So let's just plan ahead accordingly. But yeah, as it is, technically that is where we're halfway through the year, and that's, I guess, something. I don't know. It's been a lot of music. That if we just go with a conservative, or an average of, I think, about 10 albums per week, we are at 260 so far. So that feels insane. Granted, a fair share of them are EPs, and then those mini albums too kind of don't sit too heavily on the palette, but yeah. Anyway, I should be back next week. We don't have any plans to go anywhere. Well, we might. I don't know. If that happens, I'll put a little message up, but as it is, I'll be back next week with more music, as is always the case. I'm just going to finish it up. There's really no need to sit around. I got nothing else halfway intelligent to add. So everyone have a good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it happens to be where you are. Have a nice 4th of July weekend. 250 years, right? Cool. Good stuff. I don't. Does every state require to have an MMA fight now in front of the Capitol? Is that what's happening in front of in Des Moines? Did they build the octagon yet? I hope so. Anyway, y'all take care of yourselves. Enjoy the weekend. Stay out of trouble. Don't lose any digits due to fireworks. All the fun stuff. Grilling. Yada, yada, yada. I will see you the next time I see you, which, if you stick around for the news on Sunday, will be the day after. So, everyone have a good one. Yeah, anyway. Пока-пока.